Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Today is Monday, April 1st, 2024. We have a work session this morning to receive a quarterly update regarding our 2024-2028 strategic plan. My name is John Kafalis, Commissioner from District 1, joined by my colleagues, Kristen Stevens from District 2, Jody Shedak McNally from District 3, and we have our Assistant County Manager, Lori Kadrich. Welcome, everyone. Lori, is there anything you'd like to say to cue this up before we turn it over to Josh?
Thank you, Commissioners. I would just like to mention that we're early in this process in terms of beginning our next 5-year strategic plan. And so I believe the update today might be shorter than usual because we're early in the process. And with that, I'd turn it over to Josh Fudge.
Thanks, Lori, and we certainly appreciate it when our slide presentation is comprised of 6 slides. Thank you.
It's a lot shorter than I usually provide. So thank you. My name is Josh Fudge. I'm the Director of Performance, Budget, and Strategy, here to provide an update. As Lori mentioned, it should be relatively quick because we are just getting started. We'll provide a update on the objective teams and how they have formed and whether they have met, and I'm happy to say most of them have. And then just a quick update on outreach and some next steps. So most of the objective teams have been created. There was one team that hadn't yet identified a team leader. I believe we have found that person this past week, so that team will get started here in the next couple weeks. There are various structures to these teams. Some of them, as you recall, most of the objectives have at least 2 or 3 sub-objectives. And in some cases, maybe there's one team looking at all of the sub-objectives. In some cases, there are actually different teams looking at each of the sub-objectives. So it's really been up to each objective team leader and the goal leader, which is the term we're giving to the service area directors. It really depends on the work being done and the specifics of that objective. So, which I think is good news because in a lot of these cases, efforts have already been going on, and so we're really leveraging what we have in place already. We are going to be developing a reporting tool, sort of a project management software that objective team leaders can use to track progress of the objectives, and we'll be able to show that on the county's website so that the public will be able to see in a much more graphical format kind of what those teams are achieving and what's left to be done. We have some design and sort of figuring out how to structure that here in the next week or so. And like I mentioned, many of the teams have already had their initial meetings. In general, they're basically getting to know one another. They're starting to inventory the current efforts for these objectives and define the problems. Out of this, I envision perhaps over the next couple of quarters, the teams will really start to work on those specific deliverables. As you might remember, each objective has sort of a visionary statement, like we will improve on this and we will work on that. There's no specific, we will do X, Y, Z by a date certain. And that's because we wanted to give these objective teams the ownership of what they can achieve. And because so many of them are based on ongoing efforts already, we didn't want to stop those efforts or foul them up, if you will. So those teams are going to be working on that in their next few meetings. They're developing a meeting cadence as well, and those vary all over the place, as you can imagine. So, and I just explained the last item, that teams will develop those deliverable solutions. Any questions?
We'll pause. Colleagues, do you have any questions, comments, observations for Josh? A quick one, Josh. Well, one is I want to make sure that the slide presentation is showing up over there. It wasn't before. Hopefully we can figure that out. And my quick question is, when do you anticipate we might have preliminary deliverable solutions?
I hope over the next, hopefully by the end of this year. It really depends. There's such a wide variation. As you might remember, under natural and built environment, for instance, a lot of those objectives are related to the Climate Smart and Future Ready plan, and they either already have deliverables or will be working on them according to their cadence. Some of them, I think, will be relatively simple and may actually be completed in a year or two. There's very specific items like developing a sequential intercept model in community justice alternatives. That objective kind of has a pretty known deliverable and could be completed relatively soon. Others, such as in county operations, developing leadership capabilities and things like that could take a little bit longer. So it's really going to depend. But my goal is to have most of them by the end of this year.
Thank you.
So the next couple of slides just walk through each of the objective teams to show how progress has been made. The first goal, resilient, equitable, and engaged community. The first objective, communicate with the public. That team has been created, and they are actually going to be meeting their first time this afternoon. So they are getting started. Objective 2, improving accessibility to the county. That was the one team where we hadn't yet identified an objective team leader. We do now, I think, have a leader, and so we'll be setting up that team an initial meeting here in the coming weeks. And then the third objective, maximizing partner relationships. That team, I believe, has been created. Hasn't met yet, but will be soon. The second goal, quality of life. All three teams have been created. Promote health and well-being in our community. That team will be meeting for the first time on April 3rd. Objective 2, supporting an equitable economy. That team and those teams have actually been created. If you remember, that's actually going to be built on an effort already ongoing in economic and workforce development, one with a state strategic plan to develop a workforce, and then the other is a regional Northern Colorado effort to develop that care-centered workforce. So progress on that will depend on how those groups go. But they're actually kind of already started, so I probably could have put a check mark that they've met, but just because it's such a different structure, I didn't do that yet. And then the third objective, improving housing stability. That team has been created, and that team met just a couple weeks ago, so they are off and running. Any questions?
Looks like we can keep going, Josh. Thank you, sir.
The next slide has Goal 3, natural and built environment. The current and future transportation needs, that team has been created, and that's one of our kind of unique structures in that that team is actually going to work first on the transportation funding sub-objective within that objective. They are starting some work on surveying the community to see what needs are out there. And so that's going to be sort of an initial effort, and then with that priority, and then after that, they will focus on the other sub-objectives in there. The second objective, develop a sustainable built environment. That's part of the climate smart and future ready plan by and large, and so those teams are meeting and making progress already. And then developing a sustainable natural environment. That team has been created, and that team met several weeks ago. I believe that was the first team to have met, so they have gotten started as well. And then finally, the fourth goal, county operations. Optimize county processes and systems. Those teams have been created. There's one team for each of the sub-objectives within there. I believe there's 4. And all 4 of those teams have met and are starting to begin their processes as well. The second objective, coordinating and collaborating with partnerships and stakeholders. That team has been created, and their first meeting will be this coming Thursday. And then finally, the support and develop leadership objective. That team has been created, and that team is also meeting this afternoon. So a couple of teams getting started today. Any question on those?
Colleagues, looks like you're on a roll, Josh.
All right. I'll keep it moving. And this is the last slide. So we have updated the county website for the strategic plan, so it no longer points to the prior plan. It now has a document very similar to what was up there before for this plan, and it will be updated as we go and as changes are made. We will continue to add other plans and efforts to that page. Right now, there's a list of other master plans and just other major projects that the county is working on, and so we will continue to add to that so we can promote that page and hopefully also those other things. The outreach objective, which again meets today, will develop an effort to further publicize the plan. And then, as I mentioned, some objectives may evolve as teams meet and learn. For instance, we've received some feedback that some of the sub-objectives use the term regional, and so that could mean anything from statewide to countywide to, maybe a couple of counties here in northern Colorado. And so as those definitions change, we will update you on their work there as well and make sure that's okay. And then as some sub-objectives also may evolve just as the work continues, and we will bring you those updates to see if we're on the right track as well. So we mentioned this would be short, and that's the progress that we've made. I'm pretty happy that the plan was just adopted about a month ago, and most all the plans have already met. So I feel like we're off to a good start. So with
Thank you,
that,
Josh.
any questions?
Yeah, colleagues, any feedback or questions for Josh? And thank you for all your amazing work in your office to help shepherd many of these endeavors. Yes, Commissioner Stevens.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for the progress and the update on the progress. I didn't remember we had only adopted a month ago, so I think this is pretty remarkable, and I'm really looking forward to seeing, what these teams come up with, and glad to know that they're already meeting. So, yeah, this is great work, and look forward to seeing more. And with regard to updating the public, I mean, that'll largely happen through the website, is that right?
Yeah, and depending on what
And then,
the,
of course, these meetings.
exactly.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Shattuck McNally, and then I have a couple of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have comments and a couple questions myself. First, thank you, Josh, and thank you to all the directors and all the people that have signed up to be objective leads or be a part of this process. This is above and beyond duties as assigned, and I just want to thank you all for your dedication and service in this, and also kind of the energy and enthusiasm I feel like I've seen out of a lot of folks and our directors to have this strategic plan, and I really like how it seems to weave and integrate so many things in together, so it kind of also is showing some of the work that we're doing as a county, so I really appreciate that. But thank you to everyone for their service and their time in this. My first question is, they've had initial meetings and starting to inventory current efforts to find problems. Will we see some of that or when will we see some of that to kind of see what that looks like? And then I'm sure as we go through all these plans, there'll be short and long-term goals, and then delivering solutions. So this will not just be this year, right? This is like there's two questions. When will we see that? And then they're setting up short and long-term goals, because this could be a lot of work for some of these bigger processes, especially the climate action plan.
Yeah. So for the climate action plan specifically, I think you'll generally get updates on those through Heidi's routine updates on that. They're going to kind of have their own cadence. We've talked a lot, and where it's convenient for her to provide an update in this meeting, she will, if there's something timely. If on the other hand, maybe they brief you a week before this on that, then we might just go right over that because you heard about it a week before. So on the other things, we will have quarterly work sessions like this for 2 hours. So we'll provide plenty of time to walk through the inventories of what the teams have come up with. I can tell you I've attended all the meetings that have happened so far, and as we kind of learned at the stakeholder meeting last summer, a lot of these things the county really is already working on. And so I envision the inventorying should be relatively easy because most of the people involved are working on these types of things. And then they're going to also then define kind of not the problem per se, but within the objective, how do we use what we're working on and anything else that we can also do to then advance this directive and create a deliverable. So it's, like I said earlier, it's going to depend on the team and what's already going on. Some of them, it could take a lot longer, and some of them it could be relatively soon. So we'll provide updates kind of as they come up with the inventory of things that are going on, if that exists, or their ideas, and then kind of what they want to see as the deliverable for those. We'll bring those to that quarterly update and say, this is what they're looking at. Does that sound like we're on the right track? And you're right, this plan does last for 5 years. So Some of those deliverables may be relatively quick. One piece, for instance, of the natural and built environment one for sustainable natural environment is the natural resources master plan, updating that. And so that'll have its own cadence, and we'll kind of report on that as well. So, yeah, it really will depend, but we'll provide those updates and kind of what the teams are thinking of doing before we, finalize those deliverables at these work sessions. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it does, thank you. And also wanted that kind of for the public too, because, there could be some really quick things, and there could be some long things. So, and I know the answer to this, but I just wanted to see if we could clarify or repeat for myself and the public that this staff time and efforts and do these things cost money. And so could you remind me what we have put in the budget annually and for kind of helping with some of these activities?
Yeah, so there's about $250,000 in the adopted budget for this year for, unanticipated things that these objective teams need. Some of them, for instance, if they need to do a study of some kind or provide a meeting with the public and, have meeting-related expenses, there's funding available for those types of things. I envision it'll be relatively minimal in the first year as we kind of get started. The other nice thing is that with having my office kind of staff or help out with a lot of these teams, we'll know if there's a budget-related request above and beyond that. So, if we're in May and June and a team is like, we think this particular item could help meet a deliverable and it's going to have a budget impact, we can help them put that in next year's budget request, I think, much more seamlessly than it has before. So, and we'll maybe start to look for those next year in next year's budget process.
Thank you very much. Again, my gratitude for all the work. Thank you.
You bet.
So I have two questions, Josh, and a comment. Given that these are quarterly updates, does that mean, well, we can expect that our next quarterly update will be around July 1st?
Correct, yep.
Okay, thank you. And my two questions are these. One is the membership of the objective team set? Because I seem to recall that we were going to make some intentional effort to recruit folks from the community.
Mhm.
Can you respond to that, please?
Yeah, in general, I think the teams have been created. I wouldn't say their membership is set because we'll always be looking for, if new people are interested in joining, we have put out the word to those community members who are on teams. I would say that most of the teams that are not in the county operations goal do have a member of the public in some way. Also, the public will be involved, through for instance, again, the natural resources master planning effort. That has a big public outreach component to it. So there's going to be a lot of things that have public outreach as well. Like I say, we're always, if somebody's interested and wants to help out, that's great. We've also, what we envision, and of course, we haven't really gotten it started yet, is we may also look to the public to serve as subject matter experts. So if there's perhaps a deliverable where we need to know what another organization is doing or how they could help, we may go to them and say, can you help us with this specific piece? Not necessarily become a member of the team, but help us out because they're the subject matter experts. We've also put out the word to employees if they're interested in serving. There was an article on it in the county manager's newsletter a couple weeks ago. I've gone to a couple department meetings and kind of walked through the plan and said, if you're interested in joining, please do. And we've had a couple people sign up as well. So, yeah, I feel like we have some pretty good public representation in a lot of these objectives.
Thank you, Josh. Then my final question is this, and that is regarding the larimer.gov/strategic plan website. Are we putting in links there to cross-reference other website pages of the county? For example, Climate Smart Future Ready has a really excellent interactive community dashboard. Certainly, we have similar in our public health, and then already beginning to receive inquiries regarding our beginning efforts around updating our transportation master plan. Will we be linking to those pages that might make it easier for folks to keep track of things?
Yes, so I'm going to try to show
You're good, Josh, thanks.
the website here. I had it up. There we go. So we have a little bit of an explanation at the top about the plan itself, a document that uses, graphics and is, not so many tables and things to look at. It explains the process, how we came up with the plan, some things that we learned from the prior versions of the plan that we've discussed before, and then one page for each goal area. So it lays out the objectives and sub-objectives there. And then down below as well, we have a section, what else is the county doing? And here is where we'll link to those other master plans and those efforts. I think there's a couple I still need to add. If there are other plans here that are missing, I invite people to let me know, and we can provide links to that as well. And Michelle Bird is the objective team leader for the outreach on the plan, and we've talked about, making sure that the outreach on the plan references these other things as well, so that, hopefully in 5 years when we poll the public, we get new ideas and not a lot of things we're already working on. So that is certainly the goal, is to make sure that people are aware it's not just the plan, it's all this other stuff as well.
Great. Thank you for answering my questions and for providing this visual and a reminder of what the website looks like. Excellent. Colleagues, do you have anything else for Josh? Commissioner Shattuck McNally?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Josh, I have to tell you a story. Last week, I was sharing this with some colleagues and some interested community members about our strategic plan. And I went to this website and shared the link, and I was trying to walk them through it. And I was pleasantly surprised to see all that in one place. And I got a lot of great feedback from other commissioners around the state and some colleagues. And so I think, I don't know if that was you, but I think it's brilliant to have that all in one place to show kind of all the things that are happening. And it was really helpful for me because I had some folks who were interested in the strategic plan, but then to find out we have all these other plans, some of them they didn't know. And so I just want to commend you all for that. And I should have emailed you last week saying, hey, such and such, but it was cool for me as a commissioner when I walked someone to that website. And then to find things in one place was really, I wanted to just say, well done there, and I just really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Just one additional bit of feedback. I'm noticing where you have recreation and then you list the ranch and open lands. You might want to consider recreation/open space, since that is a key part. I mean, and also with regard to the survey results that we just have had a chance to look at, recreation and open space are two complementary values and issues that the community cares about. Just a suggestion.
Great idea, thank you.
Yeah. Anything else, colleagues? Then Assistant County Manager Lori Cadrich, do you have any insights you'd like to share?
Just one, Commissioners. Josh spoke to how many of these objectives are things that we're currently doing. And I just wanted to clarify for the community that we didn't try to put together our strategic plan by what we were already doing. We started with the community, and what we heard from the community were things that happened to be what we had started or what was in the budget process. And one in particular I remember is the water plan. So during the community meeting, many members who attended identified a need to have a water master plan. Well, it just so happened we were applying for a grant at that same time to pull that together. So I want the community to know that we did hear what they had to say, and in those cases, we put that into the strategic plan, and it may be something that was already being worked on, and it may be something now we're working on.
Very important insight, Lori, thank you. I'm very glad that I called upon you for that, to receive that insight. Excellent. Given that I don't believe we have anything else, at 11:25 a.m., we are adjourned.